Let's start with our moderator, Mr. Hitesh Uppal, the CFO of Magicbricks. Mr. Hitesh, what is that one thing that has 100% always given you 100% ROI?
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, the one thing which I learned over a period of time is you have to take your teams along. If your teams along are not with you, then definitely whatever you put as an investment, you are not able to get that. So getting along with your team, understanding, it's the one thing that definitely give you a right ROI at the right time.
Fantastic answer, Mr. Hitesh. Spoken like a true leader. Our next leader, of course, is Mr. Rupesh Mishra, Bharti Airtel Limited, Gurgaon. Mr. Mishra, what would you say is that one thing that gives you 100% ROI?
I mean, from finance side, I mean,
Anything.
I will go to the negotiation. Being a hardcore negotiator in whatever we do. I mean, it's in your hands. If you're successful, you're getting the returns straight away, straightforward. So being a very sharp negotiator in the finance field is something which will always give you, good returns.
Mr. Mishra has spoken like a true leader who belongs to the finance world. I mean, we gave you the option of talking anything under the sun, even emotionally, like, no, finance only. Okay. Our next leader is Mr. Jogendra Singh, CFO and President, Hero Enterprise. Mr. Singh, I see you've been smiling throughout, and why do I think you're prepared for this answer?
No, I'm actually prepared for anything, but don't worry. So, as far as this is concerned, I'll like to, just take it away from the work. And I'd say, there's a life beyond numbers. How do you convert that into numbers? So I would say the amount of workout that I do, my exercises, okay, that has given me 100% ROI. The amount of money I spend on my books, given me 100% of ROI. So absolutely 100% ROI items. I'm just smiling. I said, oh, this is something that will absolutely nobody can say that has given me 99% ROI.
Wow, fantastic. Absolute numbers only. Mr. Singh, fantastic answer. Moving on to our next leader, Mr. Sanjay Banka, CFO, Senco Gold and Diamonds. Mr. Banka, books, negotiation, we've covered it all. What would you say?
Pardon? Sorry, I missed you.
So, Mrs. Sanjay, so the question is, what is that one thing that you have done in your life, which no matter how many times, I mean, every time it gives you 100% ROI. It could be anything under the sun.
See, I think trust of the co-workers, as Hitesh has said. So one is a team, that is your own immediate team. And at a CFO level, you have to, first of all, win the trust of your CEO. Because, the role of a CFO is always seen as a contrarian. So what the sales team say, what the CFO says. And then we have to work together with other CXOs, with IT, with sales, with HR, with marketing. So most important is you have to win the trust of your co-workers, your C-suite members, and then you get 100% ROI.
Fantastic answer. I mean, so trust is 2 times, books, we've got 1, and of course, we've got fantastic answers. Mr. Gaurav, our last leader for this segment, Mr. Gaurav Khandelwal, CFO, India, Southeast Asia of OYO. Mr. Gaurav.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I think it's just a blend of what we heard previously. For me, I think one part which has worked well is taking people along, whether it's my own team or fellow colleagues. And second is, as Jogendra mentioned, I think books, they are always a very good investment. And I'm a very strong believer the return is much more than 100%. So those 2 would be from my end.
Gentlemen, I can just sense this camaraderie, right? I see a lot of carry forward happening, like you have in those multiplication tables. There's a lot of carry forward happening, which just goes to show that the thought is being resonated with all. Fantastic answer, gentlemen. Stage is all yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nikita. So the topic is ensuring ROI for your digital investments. And our eminent speakers very well know about what we need to talk. And definitely this will be a favorite topic. Not to waste your time, I'm just start with Mr. Singh on the thoughts on the CFOs have to consider multiple factors to determine expenditure. And every year might bring with it a host of changes and market conditions that impact those decisions. how are CFOs strategizing to strengthen different finance function to create a resilient business? So what's your view, Mr. Singh?
Yeah, thank you, Hitesh. I think this is a wonderful topic. And, primarily when we talk about ROI and when we talk about, you're looking at, a different ways of, how we are looking at digital transformation, technology, etc. Technology is primarily changing the way businesses are run now. Our business models are being based on, technology. But, when you look at a lot of our companies in last some time, of course, there have been a lot of changes, but still I see the technology, the internal financial systems in our companies are still a little bit lagging the technology trend, because the change in technology is very, very fast, at this point in time. So it is absolutely very important that our internal financial processes, they adopt the latest technology or whatever, we're talking about mobility, AI, digital experience, to ensure that straight through processing, predictive controls, and analytics are used for timely decision making. So CFOs have to be aware of technological changes that are happening, and they understand how they can leverage them for their own internal financial processes. And of course, we can discuss this, going forward further.
Understood. Thanks. So coming to Mr. Banka, we have seen that recent changes in the capital budgeting landscape. Earlier, most of our expenses are capital oriented, but from the emergence of asset-light model like SaaS and shared economy, and moving from CapEx to OpEx model for digital transformation, specifically coming in terms of our cloud computing and everything that's coming in. What are the key factors and how does this transition help in improving business productivity? What's your view on that? Moving from CapEx to OpEx model, does these kind of investments are really working? What's your view on that?
Yeah, so actually, I'll just give a little background to the question. So I worked in Bharti Airtel and I was the network controller there, where major part of the IT spend was on an OpEx model. We had an outsourcing agreement with IBM, and a major entire IT expenditure was based upon a percentage of revenue, around 2%. And so primarily this CapEx OpEx model depends upon the company's culture, the cash flow availability, the tax shelters, and the long-term strategy. So companies which have got a very high cash flow and which want to take a tax shelter. So let's say if you spend the amount as OpEx, you get an immediate gratification in terms of your tax liability. So you go into OpEx model, you have a high cash flow. Whereas if you go into a CapEx model, you have to pay the money upfront and you get the tax benefit. So it depends upon the company culture. So let's say in our case, ours is a jewelry company now, and the company has a different trajectory for growth. So currently we are going on a purely CapEx model. So the IT software which we are procuring, we have a good high cash flow, and our total IT budget is not very high. So we would prefer to go with a CapEx model because it gives us a much better handle, and an OpEx model doesn't help us. So we were discussing recently for one of the RPA implementation. So ultimately, the vendor offered me both the CapEx model and OpEx model. What we realized is that in OpEx model also ultimately he's charging the cost to you. So the costing is based upon IRR method. We finally decided it has to be on a CapEx model. The final conclusion is that whether it's a CapEx model or OpEx model, you must deliver, understand that what is the cost that is building, and accordingly take a final call.
Understood. And mostly these decisions will comes also in terms of build versus buy decision, whether I should buy upfront a kind of an OpEx solution or a kind of build it. Again, that's true. Coming to Mr. Mishra, so so my personal experience with the Airtel is whatever kind of a benchmarking we used to do in terms of processes, automation, Airtel is much far ahead in terms of billing, in terms of in terms of whatever kind of pay-per-use kind of a model, be it's a prepaid. The day you change a plan, your billing starts from different thing. So Rupesh, I would like to ask you, what are the top technological implementation for the automation in finance processes in terms of AI and RPA Bharti is looking at?
Thank you, Hitesh. I mean, first of all, my thanks to Team Exito for giving me this opportunity to be part of this August panel. On technological implementation, if we can just, go to a decade back or so, I mean, just to set the context right. I mean, all of us being a finance leader, we would have prepared books manually. We would have filed our ITS manually. I mean, just to put up a right context, in 2016, through some legacy, I went to one of the cooperative banks. They were still on the ledger. They, brought up file of my mother's time, carry forward balances, etc. So in my opinion, I mean, you all will correct it, from 2001 till 2010, 12, more or less, I think that manual work is, broadly over. So all the businesses, manufacturing, trading, small scale, large, definitely, they all have moved to ERP. I mean, from the manufacturing side, now it is into the software service side also. Small accounting softwares like of Tele, now they are branding themselves as an ERP. So that era now wherein you were check printing, I mean, I know majority of companies will still do, majority of the promoters will like to still sign checks, but I think that era is gone. Manual invoice raising, that era is gone. ERS, etc., that era is gone. PO even, that's also getting to some extent largely automated now. Talking about this new concept, new technology-driven methods in finance, specifically AI, RPA, and other technological advancement. I have four, five items which during my tenure with Bharti as well as other companies dealing with a couple of Fortune 100 companies which I have noticed. So definitely one SAP HANA Oracle new version, which we all know that when you are entering or when you are trying to raise any PO, like for example, you want to raise a PO for coal procurement. I mean, they will give you geography-wise, region-wise coal prices, quality-wise, etc. So that feature not only in specific to the procurement, but even in the service side. If you are trying to raise or if you are trying to enter certain debt, they will give you all the prevailing benchmarks, ROIs. So that feature definitely, I mean, I am enjoying it, and just for our viewers. So one shall definitely try to look forward for the best utilization of those AI features. SAP HANA I have personally seen. POs, I mean, as I was talking about the POs and invoice raising, majority of the companies, including, I mean, to some extent, Bharti, though I'm not part of the operational team. So we have a vendor portal now. I mean, I personally have raised invoices to Fortune 100 companies in my previous tenure. They have a, I mean, the vendor portal. You just go on the company website, input all your invoices detail, depending upon the backup, etc. Upload your invoice, refer to a particular, the representative SCM member, and automatically that invoice will flow to their accounting software. Automatically the due date will get generated, payment reminders will come. You can check the status of, if there are 2 levels of approvals, etc. that you can see. That's again a dramatic change in last, I'll say 3 to 4 to 5 years. I being largely, I mean, sort of, majority of my life, here in Bharti, we have, I mean, majority of the companies, I know even we also tried. So we have software of, I mean, I have the software of Murex. Liquidize is well known. I mean, the way Liquidize brand, it's sold to everyone. So what, I mean, I'll just explain the feature of Murex first and then go to the Liquidize. So it is a full-fledged treasury software. The way it is branded, I think majority of the European bank, Singapore-based company, majority of the Asian banks are also using it. Across the treasury functions, debt, FX, liquidity, it gives you a market sense. So suppose you want to do a forward of 6 months further, they will tell you multiple market permutation combination that a small trader can understand what could be his P&L, shall he enter or not, if he'll do it, if he instead of 6-month deal, you want to do a 9-month deal, what could be the possibilities? So exceptional AI, exceptional support to the treasury professionals. Liquidize, we all know. So, I mean, in Bharti, we have around 250 odd accounts globally. On a single click, on a single email, you have the bank statement available across the banks. I mean, if we have 13, 14 dealing banks, on a single click, you get it. At the same time, I was just going through the Liquidize training for 2-3 days. We have the features. I mean, if you want to inbuild every bank-wide projected balance, this is the history of that bank account. The software will tell you what could be the balance after 1 year, 6 months, 3 months down the line. I mean, so absolutely brilliant. I will say these, I mean, AI-based technologies are way forward. I mean, the government's also, you know, I mean, the idea red and will see. They are also projecting a lot of things. So, I mean, this is a new era now, I would say.
Thanks, Rupesh, for enlightening on what Airtel and your AI investments are. Gaurav, coming to you, will CFO remain focused on greater business value for their IT investments? What's your view on this?
I think absolutely, because I think the starting point for any IT investment has to be value creation, because it's very difficult for a CFO or even otherwise for anyone to go and stake claim to an investment and then, you know, not have a very sound business case around it. So for me, that is, I think, table stakes. I think the important part, in my view, is to first make sure that the value creation that is put forward is something which is, one, very tangible, and number two, one is able to show early wins. Because very often, typically, when finance puts forward an automation proposal, you know, very often the question that comes is, okay, what is the value that will come? Because inside people's minds, it's often equated to, let's say, bookkeeping. And people think that, you know, beyond this, what am I getting? So I think the important part is getting the pitch right. And number two, making sure that one is able to demonstrate an early win. If I give you a couple of examples, which I've seen in my career, not limited to any specific company, but one area which at least I have often seen work quite well is working capital. You use analytics to throw up light on, let's say, your vendor payment terms. You realize that, you know, there are X percentage of vendors who are on 30 days or 60 days. And even if you move them by 30 or 60 days further, there is so much extra cash you can generate. Yeah. Another example which has worked well, at least in my experience, is being able to data mine on the customer side, saying that, you know, there are certain customers where you are charging lesser and there's an opportunity to charge more. So I think, to me, I think creating value is a given. But I think the more important part is to make it believable for business that this investment is real, the return on this is real, and then do it in a manner where people can see those early wins. Because that is what then gives confidence to the business to make further investments which can create further value.
So Hitesh, if you allow me, you know, I'll just add
please.
A different perspective to this. Gaurav has given a wonderful, you know, view on how to really make use of this, you know, investment. What is also very important for CFOs is to really go out of their own shell, out of their financial area, and really see it on a business-wide, you know, perspective. So what is actually happening is there are a few trends, you know, which are coming through, which are very, very, and these have been accentuated, especially after the pandemic. So one, we say there is more connectivity in the world today. So we talk about 32 billion, you know, connected machines today, which 1:4 kind of a ratio with the humans, right? Then we have a lower transaction cost because a lot of middle layer is disappearing, you know, from the transactions. Then you have unprecedented kind of an automation and a fundamental societal shift, you know, towards, you know, the consumption in a very different way. So therefore, what is happening is our business models per se are being redesigned. So I'll give an example, you know, of one of our, you know, group companies, which is in the insurance broking actually. and it is probably India's largest insurance broking company in terms of number of policies. We do more than 1 crore policies every year. And what happens is, we have been going very in a very traditional way since last 10, 12, 13 years. When we sell a motorcycle, I will issue an insurance policy, right? So we said we have a mine of this data, which is a very authentic data, and which is a data for which we have a large amount of footprint in terms of number of dealers which are across India. So in terms of footprint, if I really say, we have a huge case for what we call a physical model, a blend of physical and digital assets. So in insurance broking space, we are now creating a platform which can give us a leverage and can change the way we do business, and we are absolutely feeling that, currently, right now, this is, from the digital space, our business could be about, let's say, 2 to 5%. And going forward in next few years, we are thinking that it could be very substantial, going to about 35 to 40% of our total business. So therefore, we also have to really look at how do we use technology to the advantage of realigning and redefining the business model per se. So that's also another view which I think would be very important from your questions point of view.
Correct. Understood. Very well articulated. Thanks, Gaurav and Mr. Singh. Mr. Singh, coming to the thing which you mentioned about different ways of handling that. What are your strategies that help you measure the performance of your digital investments? What are kind of KPIs, or what kind of a dashboard, or how you measure that, like, these are my digital investments and I am getting a right ROI? What are your strategies behind this?
Yeah, I think this is a fundamentally very important thing. So we have all said that prioritizing digital transformation is crucial. So there is not a question of if, and it is not a question of future.
Correct.
So, and if I really talk about future, the future is now. The future is here. So therefore, we have to really see what is our priority, whether it is a very basic automation of the manual processes using digital tools, or collaborate and work more seamlessly, even with different organizations. How do we really have to see is, and how do we really try and see is, we find out what is your primary motivation for digital transformation. So I think in the session just before this, we were talking about KPIs or ROIs, and obviously KPIs or things cannot be in the thin air. These have to be related to your primary motivation for digital transformation, and then based on that primary motivation, then you choose what your matrices are. And those matrices that then you have to really see. So I'll have to really see whether I'm looking at the customer. So like customer satisfaction, CX is today a very big, very big area. In fact, I was reading something very interesting, and I may like to probably, read it out to you. It says Rolex sells status, not watches. Supreme sells scarcity, not clothing. Harley-Davidson sells a lifestyle, not bikes. Apple sells simplicity and style, not electronics. So great marketing teams sell feelings, not products. So primarily what we are looking at his or her feelings, and we're trying to give the maximum satisfaction to the
It's some
Yeah.
network error at Mr. Singh's end. Okay, so I think we should continue with the next area. So, we'll come back to Mr. Singh once network is back.
And we do take,
Okay. Anyway, okay. So, Mr. Banka, one of the other critical part of the finance and the aligned function is an audit one, which is a more kind of a manual intensive and on-premise concept. Sorry, Mr. Singh, we will come back to your.
I'm sorry. Yeah, please go ahead. I'm sorry, you just got disconnected.
Yes, so I was speaking to Mr. Banka about another aspect of finance and hand in hand another department is an audit one, which is a more manual intensive and on-premise concept. Solving this issue using tech solution is a game changer. How did you tackle digital close in a remote work setup? I believe in your organization, audit is also, like others, plays an important role and dealing in gold and diamonds. So how you ensure that in work from home environment, you are tackling your digital ambition?
Let me give a little background about the company as well. So we are India's second most trusted brand after Tanishq. So people may not be aware. So while in terms of turnover, Tanishq is around 18,000 crore. But during COVID, the agility has impacted almost everybody. Tanishq has come down to 13,000 crore annualized turnover. And we are around 3,000 crore turnover. And secondly, in Q1 and Q2, we have grown more than Tanishq. So our growth has been highest in the industry. So, and even at H1 level for the entire year, we are likely to be #1 in terms of growth in India. So that is a Senco story, which means clearly that we, even though we are East-based, an organization based in West Bengal, we have been very agile when it comes to IT because we have a good IT resources in the company. We are running the organization on ERP. So during audit, we did not face any difficulty, and during this Q1, which was April to June, when the entire country was facing COVID. The entire team was working on from work from home, and we have been working almost on a real-time basis through Microsoft Teams. So it is Microsoft Teams through which we are virtually working from office itself. And nowadays the habit has become so strong that even within the office we don't go to the conference room. We remain in our respective chambers, and we have an HOD meeting. We are meeting with all the stores. So coming back on the audit, we had our team, which was fully integrated. Every member had a laptop and good Wi-Fi connection. Microsoft Team at our end and also with the auditor, and sharing all the audit schedules with the auditor. That did wonders. We did not even face any difficulty, and we were able to close our audit by around the 15th of June. In fact, for Q2, we'll be able to close the limited review by 15th of November. So just like any listed company.
Okay.
So
So
the auditors
more
are
or
given
less,
access. The auditors are given access to the ERP. They are downloading the schedule, and this complete digital environment is facilitating our business transaction seamlessly.
got it. So overall approach remains same during COVID versus work from home environment. Any other digital investment you have done or initiative you have taken specifically for audit apart from these virtual meetings? No. Okay.
No, nothing else. Our focus has been more on the business side. So we have been investing more on the virtual reality. So if you go to our website, you can try on any jewelry and see it on your face. We have recently launched our Digi Gold. So other than Tanishq and PC Jewelers, we have launched a digital gold website through which the customer can focus. So our primary focus right now is more on a customer-centric initiatives.
So, got it. So, Mr. Mishra, I'll come to you on. Can you share some view on the tools we are using, like RPA, Tableau, Edge computing, or any travel expense management software to streamline and automate workflow, or to end any repetitive tasks? Are you any? I'm sure that you must be using some of these tools in your organization. If you would like to share your experience on specifically the tools, how it has helped repetitive tasks to to go away?
Definitely, Hitesh. So, I mean, more or less, I think the answer lies in my last sort of, elaboration. So all these tools, specifically, if I talk about Murex, so everything is set. You just have to, whatever may be the complex structure of a particular deal, particular loan, particular sort of, any type of investment, etc. You have to just enter it one place. Even there is an option, like, majority of these expense management tools, you can enter in Excel and then you can, directly export it to the software. And from there, all our activities, specifically the bookkeeping, recording, reporting, offload to the Oracle, and as Mr. Banka was explaining, easy access to the auditors, etc. So this is one of the tools, and it's not only on a particular deal, but multiple types of deals. Say, across the gamut of the treasury functions, we have around 20 different odd types of deal, and that itself is, you are doing NCDs, CPs, you are doing commercial paper, and structured bullet repayment, etc. So all those stuff becomes very simple. The pure example which I just explained, expense management, as you said. So if a invoice raiser has the freedom to put in an invoice, I mean, they do not have to track the courier has the invoice raised. Multiple times the issue was that invoice has not raised the right person, forget about the payment, etc. So if it has been actually offloaded from a portal to a portal, there is a good mechanics from the issuer to the receiver to the approver and even to the banking team, etc. So all these tools are really helpful in streamlining the business.
Thank you.
I must say this, that no, Bharti Airtel has been the leader. So I was there during 2006 to 2008, and it has been leader in implementing all the IT initiatives. So most of initiatives have already been implemented by 2010, I would say. One of the very, in terms of finance process, I feel that Bharti Airtel should be among top 3 or if not top 1 in India.
No, definitely, Sanjay. I mean, just I don't wanted to say, but this software which I'm talking continuously about, Murex.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, you cannot. You need not say Bharti Airtel.
It is a global software. I mean, Bharti is a global operation in 20 different countries. We have a
you need not say Bharti Airtel, but we as an ex-employee are always there and have a very high regards as a brand ambassador. So we are always there to pledge Bharti Airtel, and the current incumbent who are very fortunate to work with Bharti Airtel.
No, I mean, I'm thankful. I mean, you, Gaurav. So, I mean, all the predecessors of Bharti. So, yeah. I mean, just to explain to the non-Bharti people. So, 20 different geographies we are controlling from a single corporate office, single operational office. So, across the globe, any loan in Zambia, Uganda, Kenya, that all is managed through that software. All the ERPs are, pushed through that, through that Murex software. And just talking about number one into that software, to the extent I know, except Reliance Industries, it's Bharti who is using this software. It costs heavily. It costs around 10-12 crores of implementation. Annual expenses around 4 crore. So as Mr. Banka said, definitely Bharti is one of the pioneers in terms of setting up the finance processes across the vertical, including this vendor portal. I mean, I have seen that portal in Fortune 100 healthcare companies now in Bharti also for the last 2 years. So that's what it's. I mean, all the companies must be doing it, but Bharti is one of the pioneers getting it.
Thanks, Mr. Banka and Mishra. Gaurav, coming to you, as per the study by FSN, before pandemic, 9% of the companies had transformed their finance function with automation. Many distributed teams have therefore had to deal with the paper-based documents and office-bound tasks that is simply no longer feasible. As a CFO and their team are now trying to move to automation to significantly improve efficiency and reduce busy work. COVID is the biggest driver of transformation, everybody knows. What has COVID taught you about automation and what initiative you have taken in improving the efficiency and productivity for the finance function to become a business champion? We'd like to hear from you.
I think before I answer first, let me thank Rupesh for bringing back very many old memories. So thank you, Rupesh. I think I'll start with a bit of a contrarian view. I'm not a believer that COVID has been the trigger point for digitalization. I think it's been in the works for years. I think what COVID has done is kind of accelerated the process.
Yeah.
So that's the way I see it. I think obviously it also threw up a scenario where, earlier there was digitization with physicality. COVID threw up a scenario of digitization without physicality. And I think that was the main challenge which everyone had to cope with. I think 2 or 3 examples come to mind, in terms of what I've generally seen in terms of areas that were adopted for digitization during this period. One, I think, how could you use digitization to start focusing on cash? Typically, a lot of digitization was initially focused on process streamlining, eliminating paperwork, etc., etc. I think, at least for me personally, digitization, analytical tools during COVID, they were of great help in extracting cash opportunities. I think that was one big advantage that one could see. Second, I think the big other learning was that how do you trawl through reams and reams of data and then pull out insights? Because COVID also was a period where people were looking to identify what could be that opportunity to extract. And very often that was not visible on the face of piles of data. So you really had to de-average a lot of things, keep mining data again and again. So I think that was the second big area that I focused on. And third is, I think, using that opportunity to kind of challenge the status quo. There was a big mindset block for everyone that unless you came to office, you were not working. COVID threw that away. But then how do you use it to kind of streamline processes even further? There are still certain holy grails within the finance functions, whether it's an example is, let's say, a purchase requisition. Without it, nothing can happen. Now, it also gave an opportunity to kind of challenge many such status quos and make process changes, which otherwise would not have happened. So to sum it up, I think digitization focused around extracting cash, digitization focused around identifying opportunities, and third was how do you challenge the status quo and do away with certain processes which were largely legacy processes.
Very well put. Thanks, Gaurav. Before I summarize, I would like to take a view from everyone, starting from Mr. Singh. 2 things: how you are aligning your technological investments with your business goal. Second part is, what's your rating for digital investment from 1 to 5 in your organization, and where you place your digital investment in terms of ROI versus others. So 1, how you're aligning your technological investment with the business goal. Second, how you rate that investment in terms of ROI vis-a-vis the other investment you do in the business. So I'll start with you, Mr. Singh, then we'll move to other panelists.
Good. Thanks, Hitesh. So any tech investment basically has to take into account, first of all, the business. And as I said, what is your primary goal? I gave an example of the insurance, broking company. There are in the other, company that we have is in steel production. So there, probably we were looking at how do I increase my production? How do I reduce my? So let's say I increase my yield. So, looking at that yield factor, we looked at certain digital investments within the factory. I'm talking of more hardcore kind of investment instead of in the software in that. So I have to really see what is my goal, what is that I want to achieve, and based on that you do the digital investment. We talk about we have another business in the real estate with the name Hero Homes. So in the real estate business, we were looking at how do we touch base with the customers. So you look at the digital interaction modes and change your processes so that you can very meaningfully deal with the customers and take the entire customer journey digitally itself. Now this was very, very difficult. So if I really see in a real estate perspective, doing this journey digitally, and if you ask me the score, I would say, from on 1 to 10, it will be maybe 5 at this point in time. And So there is still a long way to go to really satisfy ourselves. So in a manufacturing scenario, what we have done is we have put the SAP HANA over there, and now the other systems are being done as far as finance is concerned. And other than finance, on in the manufacturing operational areas also. So over here, basically I would say something like 7. But still, again, while we have created the platform, the benefit is yet to come. So we have another, business in training and kind of things. So training solutions, which called Hero Mind. So over there again, I would say that in the EdTech, there is a lot more which is to be done. So I would again say we are at 5, because we have been a traditional company, and again there is a lot of mindset, change which is required. So we are again at 5, and there's still a long way to go. But more important thing to my mind is that we have to have our strategy very clearly defined, our digital strategy very, very clearly defined, and digital strategy has to be aligned with the business strategy. So therefore, if you do that, and then you can say over a period of time, you can. So that's I would say, based on these goals, we are looking at. But our ROIs, our KPIs are customer-centric to a large extent, especially the customer-facing businesses. So Net Promoter Score is one, major KPI that I look at. I'm not much easier like looking at the throughput, looking at the yield, etc.
So, thanks, Mr. Singh. Mr. Banka, what's your view on these two thoughts?
So one is on the rating. You said that where do you rate your organization at 1 to 5? So that rating ultimately depends upon with whom you are benchmarking. Am I benchmarking with a mom and pop store? Am I benchmarking with a regional store? So we always benchmark ourselves with the best in the industry. That is Tarisk and Title. So if I compare myself, my organization with Tarisk, we are at 2.5 or 3, which means, to achieve the excellence of Tarisk, we have to take a huge effort and huge stride. So which is a matter of not only IT insight, strengthening the IT team and spending money, more of a change in the culture. So we have a clear-cut IT strategy in place where we are strengthening our IT infrastructure. We are already on ERP, and all the stores are on ERP on a real-time basis. We have an inventory of not only our stores, but a franchisee store inventory we take on a daily basis. So every day evening, we are bound to take the inventory, and once a month the inventory goes to the bank. That is usual. We are more looking into this virtual reality is very important for us as an industry. So there we are benchmarked with the best in the industry. We have fully functional websites and e-commerce site where the turnover is benchmarked with the industry. Recently, we have launched a DigiGold platform, which is among the gold industry, number 3 in India. So, and on ERP side, finance side, definitely we have to do a lot. So in terms of analytics, in terms of RPA and BI, but we are working. So as an organization, IT ultimately depends upon the culture and the ecosystem in which you work. So what Rupesh was saying, the vendor portal is a major priority for us, for which we work. Internal audit framework, let's say the cost is also a factor. So we have already got a detailed workflow which we have been developed in Microsoft ERP, through which entire internal audit process has been automated. Compliance portal we are going through. So most of whatever I'm learning and taking at this platform, that also will be dovetailed into our IT strategy. So for me, this forum is extremely useful. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Banka. Yes, Mr. Mishra, your views on aligning technological investment to a business goal and how you rate that.
Sure, Hitesh. So I just have one thought in my mind. So any automation, digitization applied to an efficient operation will magnify the result. And the second rule is, if it is applied on any inefficient operation, it will again magnify the inefficiency. Like it's an Excel formula. If formula is correct, you drag it, you get fantastic Excel sheet very quickly. The formula itself is wrong. So there's one more thing from the Bill Gates which I've just read during my preparation to the studies. If you will start applying automation everywhere, there are high chances, I mean, the IT is exponential. Our business plan would be linear. So if you start applying all the automation tools, all the technologies to your business, not realizing, as Mr. Sanjay said, as Mr. Jogendra said, so depending upon the size scale of business, you have to go. Otherwise, you will end up losing a lot of cash. And the saying is that you will end up, in a bankruptcy. So from our perspective, I mean, from our Bharti standing perspective, whatever we do, we generally, I mean, depending upon the size of the company, it's not me, but we generally are, the leaders in that domain. Whatever business we do, wherever, including the African countries, we generally prefer to be number one. And the returns we expect, once we have invested, we commit ourselves 100%. Whatever difficult that software implementation may be, and we all know that these are very difficult things, getting into implementation mode. So we strive 100% and we get best results of those, investments.
Thanks. Mr. Khandelwal, your view?
I think I won't be able to put a score to either of the two questions, but I'll just leave two perspectives. One, I think in general, technology is moving very fast, and I think it's usually outpacing business thinking. So I think there is this perpetual challenge of making sure that how do you stay ahead of the curve, and particularly for a technology company like ours, honestly, it's a way of life than even saying that, is it aligned to business or not, because that is the business in many ways for us. The second is, I think when one speaks of ROI, I think a technology investment is somewhat equivalent to customer service. A good customer service pays off. A happy partner ecosystem pays off. Yeah, it's difficult to put a value. We can put all the formulas, long-term value, etc., etc. It's all very difficult to do. But at the back of your mind, you know that a good customer service is beneficial. And I think a technology investment is in a similar space. It's difficult to put a number to it at a point in time, but I think directionally, any technology investment would pay off in medium to long term.
Sure, thanks. So Nikita, before we move to question, I'll just summarize what the last 40-45 minutes we are seeing. So in terms of ROI, we have seen there's a qualitative benefits and there is a quantitative. So qualitative include enhanced customer experience, greater employee satisfaction, improved process quality, greater business coordination between people, improved business agility. And qualitative, which comes from all discussion, seems like we can quantify in terms of improved productivity, X going to X plus growth, overall cost saving, which Gaurav said, improve service delivery. So definitely we are on the same page. There is good ROI and we can evaluate our digital investments. So here we close this discussion. Nikita, if you have any questions, just let us know.
Gentlemen, thank you so very much for that amazing session. And of course, what we do with all our speakers is we ask them to applaud themselves along with us. So big round of applause to all of you. What a session that was. And before I take on the question, firstly, thank you so very much for a very eye-opening session from the very start itself. If you were to ask me, Nikita, what is that ROI which give you 100% always? I would say Rajma Chawal and Dahi. So you made me really realize that I have to rethink my priorities in life. Fantastic. So there is a question, of course, our lovely audience members loved the session. They said we have Mr. Savan Somani who writes in very good session. Mr. Shailesh Prajapati, by the way, leaders, I have to say, Mr. Shailesh Prajapati has been very religiously asking questions from the very start. So thank you so very much, Mr. Shailesh. It is audience members like you who keep the session alive. His question is, which software did Mr. Banka inform that Bharti Airtel is using?
Which software is being currently used? Only Mr. Rupesh Mishra is the privy to state that. He has talked about the vendor.
I think there are multiple software. So in the accounting wise, we are using Oracle. And from the treasury, as I said, we are using Murex, M-U-R-E-X. There is also a software called Liquidize that's also in place. Vendor portal is, I think, an in-house developed portal. I mean, there's no name as to it. It gets, integrated with our Oracle.
Fantastic answer, Mr. Mishra.
And just to add, there is also a host-to-host integration. So anything which is there in an accounting software automatically go to the banking, for payments. So no manual intervention. For last 4 years, we would not have issued even a single check. DD for a government organization might be different.
Great. Thank you so much. Mr. Shailesh writes in a thank you to all our amazing gentlemen. Thank you, gentlemen. What a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for gracing today's session. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nikita. Thank you, Team Exito.
Bye-bye.